Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I am Ali Raza Fahad and I welcome you to my channel. Today I will discuss the Anglo-Saxon era. Who were Anglo-Saxons? Anglo-Saxons were good warriors. Most of the time they won the battle, they fought, they controlled most of England. A term used by historians to designate the Germanic tribes who invaded the south and east of Great Britain beginning in the early 5th century AD. The term is also used for the language now called Old English, spoken and written by the Anglo-Saxons and their descendants in much of what is now England and some of the southeastern Scotland between at least the mid 5th century and the mid 12th century. By this map, we can see the areas comprising Scotland, Wales, and England are called Great Britain. If we include Northern Ireland, it becomes United Kingdom of nowadays. And if we take into account all of the areas, they are actually British Isles. We see how these invasions started and how this area became that is what we know today. In 43 CE, Romans invaded Britain. They encountered the Celts. Celts were the local people who were living here. Romans built roads, villas, huge buildings, and forts. They introduced Christianity as well. In 420, Romans had to leave and they left. In 410, between 410 and 50 CE, Angles and Saxons invaded from Baltic shores of Germany and the Jutes invaded from the Jutland Peninsula in Denmark. Invaders were all Germanic tribes. These all invaders were. Anglo-Saxons pushed out Celts. In 597 CE, Anglo-Saxon became Christian. So this land, most of the population of this area became Christian. And in terms of political governments, 7 Anglo-Saxon kingdoms came into existence and eventually became the Anglo-Saxon Heptarchy. England is not unified yet, or one may call 7 sovereign kingdoms a kind of loose confederation. Let's look at the Anglo-Saxon Heptarchy. 7 kingdoms this is a map of those 7 kingdoms, and these 7 kingdoms were Kent, Essex, that was East Saxon area or the province, Sussex, South Saxon, East Anglia, Northumbria, Mercia, Wessex, that was West Saxon area, and hence becomes a new land that was this word comes from Angle land, England, that was later became. Through this map we can see Jutes, Angles and Saxons came from Denmark and Germany, and they came in these ways and they occupied these areas of the British Isles. Their invasion started in this age and it completed or came to its culmination in 8th century. In 1787 CE, Viking raids begin. In 871 to 899 CE, King Alfred the Great becomes King of England. He established education systems, rebuilt monasteries, fought Danes and forced them from Wessex, unified Anglo-Saxons under one king to resist the Viking invasions. Danes ruled in north, Anglo-Saxons in the south. In 1066 CE, Norman conquest by William the Conqueror from Norman French. William the Conqueror was a Norman king who comes from a French ancestry. Defeated Danes and Anglo Saxons, and he became the King of England here, and hence officially ended Anglo-Saxon era and brought about the beginning of the medieval period. If we look at the Anglo-Saxon society, this society had two main classes which are known as the earls. Earls were the ruling class, and the people of this class must show blood relation to the founder of the tribe. The second class was the churls. Churls were bondsmen, slaves, or agricultural lives, a kind of peasantry of the time. Created highly organized tribal units which were called sovereign kingdoms, as we have discussed in the previous slide. Tribes were ruled by a king chosen by a council of elders, which were called witens, or a leader elected by a physical prowess and achievements. How did Anglo Saxons lived? In their own lands, most Anglo Saxons were farmers. They lived in family groups in villages, not cities. Since they lived close to the sea and big rivers, many Anglo Saxons were sailors too. They built wooden ships with oars and sails for trade and to settle in new lands. Now we will discuss some of the characteristics of Anglo Saxons. They had a common shared language, but this language was not in a written form. Shared a heroic ideal, set of traditional heroes, fighters and warriors. These people were. They were fierce. They had fierce personal valor, admired physical strength, bravery, loyalty, fairness, and honesty. They had great love for personal freedom, loyalty to leader and tribe. This was a kind of must kind of thing. Ruler generous to those who remain loyal. Everyone aware of the shortness of life and passing off all things in the world. They were boastful, willing to be cruel. Persons of rank received with grave courtesy. Enjoyed conflict. Swimming matches used to be held. Horse races, banqueting, drinking mead, singing songs, and storytelling. This very term, the enjoyed conflict. Conflict was called flighting. Flighting a conflict of wits between two warriors where each praises his own deeds and belittles the others. Used to ridicule the other person by boosting of one's own heroic deeds. All of Anglo-Saxons became Christian but still valued heroic ideal and traditional heroes of their pagan times. The warrior code and glory of the Anglo-Saxon era. The king had a small bodyguard of brave warriors who could or would die to defend him. The warrior code of the Anglo-Saxons taught that a warrior must fight and die for his leader if he had to. Blood vengeance was regarded as a sacred duty, and in poetry, everlasting shame awaits those who fail to observe it. An Anglo Saxon poem called Battle of Maldon tells the story of a battle in Essex in 991 between English and invading Vikings. The English leader allowed the Vikings to cross from their camp for a fair fight. The English lost, but the poem still praises their heroism and courage. Immortality only earned through heroic actions. The goal was to be remembered after death in songs and stories of his great deeds. The Shoops. The communal hall. There used to be a communal hall that offered shelter and a place for council meetings. The communal hall was also a place for storytelling or bards who were called shops, who shared orally the stories of Anglo-Saxon and their gods and heroes and of their heroic deeds. This is a shop who is narrating or singing a story to the audience of his time. Shops were the bearers of tribal history and tradition, as they used to sing and relate stories of their history and tradition. The Anglo Saxons valued storytelling as equal to fighting, hunting, and farming, and these shops were considered equal to warriors' status. Why shops were so important to them? Anglo Saxons did not believe in an afterlife. Therefore, warriors gained immortality through songs preserved in the collective memory. They were remembered or they wanted to be remembered by the people. So these shops become so important when you know that these are the people who will make them immortal through their singing. Now we come to the literature of Old English times. First, we will discuss Christianity and literature. Poems of the time based on early Celtic and Scandinavian folk legends. Secondly, described is from Northumbria, assumed that the poet was a Northumbrian monk. Scenery described is from Northumbria, assumed that the poet was a Northumbrian monk. Only manuscript available dates from year 1000, discovered in the 18th century. The church brought education and written literature to England. Monks established churches, monasteries, and libraries. Monks recorded and duplicated illuminated manuscripts, at first only written in Latin. Oral literature was transcribed into written form. Monks preserved not only Latin and Greek classics but also popular literature like Beowulf. What kind of literature it was in Anglo-Saxon times? The significant literary genres were chronicles. Prose began in this era. Through chronicles, most probably began in King Alfred's The Glorious King of Essex. Translations from Latin, along with Alfric, a priest, composed sermons. He wrote in a kind of poetic prose. Then comes formulaic poetry. In old poetic tradition evolving through ages, oral tradition. Oral pagan literature of Germanic culture, a kind of source of knowledge about Germanic society. The poetic diction, formulaic phrases, and repetition of parallel syntactic structure determined by versification. Widsith, one of the earliest Old English poems of 7th century. Epic poem, tribal shoop used to sing or narrate these kind of poems. Epic, as we know, that a long narrative poem that relates the great deeds of a larger than life hero who embodies, is made up of, and reflects the values of a particular society. Old English literature. This Old English literature had two major influences: Germanic traditions of Anglo Saxons, and the other influence was of Christian traditions of the Roman Church. It was a kind amalgam of these two influences. Germanic language, mixture of various Germanic dialects plus Old English. Old English often looks like a foreign language nowadays. Warrior culture. Poems and stories depict a society like the Anglo Saxons, where we find military and tribal loyalties, bravery of warriors, and generosity of the rulers. Anglo Saxon literature began as an oral tradition. Oral tradition Songs and stories often sung and told about the valiant struggles of heroic warriors. Few people read in this period. Stories, poems, and songs were all told aloud and passed from generation to generation orally through minstrels, also called shoops. Bards, shoops performed or sung stories or poems from memory in Old English. This is why there are often several versions of the same story. Shoops, poet, minstrels, authors were unknown. More than just entertainment, provided a model for living and a form of immortality they could aspire to. It is pertinent to mention here that all of these provided the foundation for early written literature in Old English. First, we will discuss Old Poetry. There are two types of Old Poetry: the Christian or religious poetry. Although nearly all Old English poetry is preserved in only four manuscripts, indicating that what has survived is not necessarily the best or most representative. Much of it is of high literary quality. Secular poetry or heroic poetry. It is further divided into narrative and lyrical poetry, the sources of which are pre Christian Germanic myth, history, and custom. Moreover, Old English heroic poetry is the earliest extant in all of Germanic literature. It is thus the nearest we can come to the oral pagan literature of Germanic culture. Is also of inestimable value as a source of knowledge about many aspects of Germanic society. The 7th century work known as Widsith is one of the earliest Old English poems. Old English poetry is marked by the comparative rarity of similes, a particular feature of Old English verse style, and is a consequence of both its structure and rapidity with which images are deployed to be unable to effectively support the expanded simile. Beowulf, an epic, contains at best 5 similes, and these are of the short variety. This can be contrasted sharply with the strong and extensive dependence that Anglo Saxon poetry has upon metaphor, particularly that afforded by by the use of cannings. The Old English poetry has a fast paced dramatic style and accordingly is not prone to the comparatively expensive decoration that may be found in, say, Celtic literature of the period, where a Celtic poet of the time might use 3 or 4 similes to make a point. An Anglo Saxon poet might insert a single canning before moving swiftly on. Most commonly used poetic devices. With the coming of Christian Church, written literature began to evolve. Anglo-Saxon poetry falls mainly into two categories. Heroic poetry recounts the achievements of warriors. Elegiac poetry laments the deaths of loved ones and the loss of the past. Poems traditionally had a strong beat, alliteration, and no rhyme. Alliteration is the repetition of consonant sounds, e.g., fair, fatherly, fragrance. Caesura, a cutting, a break in a line of poetry used in Old English to depict a half line. We use a comma nowadays, we use a comma for a modern effect. Out from the marsh, from the foot of the hills. Canning, most commonly used poetic device of the time. Canning derived from the Norse word canna, which means to know, to recognize. It's a compact metaphor that functions as a name compound noun. Example of it is Whale Path for the sea. Narrative or secular poetry. Beowulf is an epic poem of over 3182 lines, whose manuscript dates from about the 10th century. The poem is the only epic from the time that has been preserved as a whole. Its author is unknown, but he seems to have had good grasp of the Bible and other great epics. Besides Beowulf, there existed other heroic poems like The Fight at Finnsburg, retelling of one of the battle scenes in Beowulf and Walder, a version of the events of the life of Walter Aquitaine. Battle of Maldon is the greatest battle poem in English. It is an Anglo Saxon old poem by an unknown poet. It describes a battle between the English and Viking warriors from Denmark and after that 991 at Maldon in Essex on the river Blackwater, then called the River Penton. Old English heroic poetry was handed down orally from generation to generation. As Christianity began to appear, retailers often recast the tales of Christianity into the older heroic stories. This is a depiction of Beowulf. Lyrical secular poetry, also called sentimental elegiac poetry, and it reflects the various fortunes of life. The most famous are the Rune, the Wanderer, the Seafarer, the Wife's Lament, and the Husband's Message. The Wanderer, it was written in 975, an elegy or lament for the loss of one's lord and companion's loneliness, exile, and utter dissolution, heavy with the thought of mortality and the end of all being. Speaker is in exile from his kin, his lord is dead, his companions lost in war. The poem The Rune is very gloomy in mood. It tells the decay of once glorious city of Roman Britain. Part of the poem has been lost due to the pages being damaged by fire. Although the poem shows no overt signs of Christianity, it embodies some Christian ideals in that it describes the disappearance of a society that placed an emphasis on hedonism and materialism and could be the work of an early Anglo Saxon Christian. The poet does make several references to Verd, which is an element of northern Germanic pagan mythology. The Seafarer is a 124 line poem that deals with the experiences of an outsider. Indeed, the poet's condition of exile has many parallels with the modern idea of the artist's estrangement from society. It begins with a lament of suffering until the speaker understands that he prefers to live a life of hardships on the waves rather than having security of land that he considers a pointless vanity. Other poetic forms that existed in Old English include riddles, charms, short verses, gnomes, and mnemonic poems for remembering long lists of names. One of the famous such kind of poems are the Book of Exeter. It includes or contains more than 30 poems and 90 riddles. Written down by monks in about 975, are primary source of Anglo-Saxon poetry. Dominant mood in poetry is elegiac or mournful. Dominant tone of riddles is light and somewhat bawdy for entertainment purpose. Next comes religious poetry, and Cademon is a very famous poet for this kind of poetry. He was born in 657 and died in 684. This is his sculpture. Cadmon was the first poet to produce vivid Christian verses in the Old English. His works were based mainly on the Old Testament. Cadmon's only known surviving work is Cadmon's Hymn, the 9 line alliterative vernacular praise poem in honor of God he supposedly learned to sing in his initial dream. In the 7th century, he was the author of several Anglo-Saxon poems based upon biblical narratives, also called Hymn of Creation. Unfortunately, only a few of his lines survive. He died around 684. The people of England remembered him as a saint. His feast is on this day, February 11. The poems assumed to be Cadmon's poems are Genesis, Exodus, Daniel, and Christ and Saturn. The Venerable Bede. He is also called Saint Bede, was a monk of the twin monasteries of Wearmouth and Jarrow in north eastern England. His famous works are Lives of Abbots of Wearmouth and Jarrow, Lives in Verse and Prose of Saint Cuthbert of Lindisfarne. Bede translated the Bible into English and wrote into Old English and wrote poems on Old English. His most famous work, Historia Ecclesiastica Genitus Anglorum, the ecclesiastical history of English people. We have a short poem called Bede's Death Song and a longer poem which may not be by Bede called Doomsday. Bede on his deathbed was working on a translation into Old English of the Gospel of John and on Isidore of Seville's On the Nature of Things. Bede is also known as the father of English history. Cynewulf. Cynewulf was a 9th century poet. Cynewulf is famous for his religious compositions and is regarded as one of the preeminent figures of Old English Christian poetry. Drew on the New Testament as well as historical events connected with Christianity. Posterity knows of his name by means of runic signatures that are interwoven into the 4 poems which comprise his scholastically recognized corpus. His 4 famous poems are The Fate of the Apostles, a short martyrology or hagiography. Christ too, also referred as to the Ascension. It was a homily. Juliana and Eileen. These are his 4 famous poems. Cynewulf's work is clear and technically elegant. His theme was the continuing evangelical mission of the church from the time of Christ to his present time. Cynewulf's life is a veritable mystery to the scholars. Not sure whether he really existed or not. Now we come to the Old English prose. The amount of surviving English prose is much greater than the amount of poetry. Old English prose works include legal writings, medical tracts, religious texts, and translations from Latin and other languages. Particularly notable is the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, a historical record began about the time of King Alfred's reign and continuing for more than 3 centuries. Of the surviving prose, sermons, and Latin translations of religious works are the majority. Old English prose first appears in the 9th century and continues to be recorded throughout the 12th century. King Alfred. Alfred was king of West Saxons and conqueror of the Vikings. He brought scholars and writers to his court in Winchester, which became the center of Renaissance English letters. Alfred translated the most important Latin texts. He also encouraged writings in the vernacular, translated the first 50 Psalms, as well as 3 prose works, one of which, Boethius, The Consolation of Philosophy, also contains poems. Soliloquies by Saint Augustine. He or his circle translated Bede's Historia, including Caedmon's hymn. The History of the World by Orosius. Augustine of Hippos, The City of God, the Dialogues of Gregory the Great. Later annals and religious writings. The first half of the 10th century saw Alfred's successors expand politically and militarily, but not culturally due to exhaustion from frequent battles with the Vikings. Only the annals continued and some poetry about victories over the Vikings. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle is the best known work of historical record spanning even beyond the Norman conquest. It contains both prose and poetry. In the second half of the 10th century came cultural enlivenment through the Benedictine reform. a monastic reform which resulted in a religious revival. The main literary style includes homilies, sermons, stories of saints' lives, and Bible translations. The chief authors were Alfric and Wulfstan. Alfric and Wulfstan, Alfric, abbot of Ensham, who wrote three cycles of 40 homilies, each two volumes of Catholic homilies and lives of the saints, as well as the other homilies, pastoral letters, and several translations. His writings were clear to understand and beautiful in style. His alliterative prose, which loosely imitated the rhythms of Old English poetry, influenced the writers long after the Norman conquest. Wulfstan, the Archbishop of York, wrote civil and church related legal codes as well as homilies. He denounced the morals of his time and exhorted people to repentance. The belief was that the Viking occupation and the resulting oppression and suffering were the result of sin and that the end of the world was at hand. Martyrology, a creative work treating the life and suffering of martyrs. Homily, a written religious speech or section of the poem that gives direct advice. Thank you very much.